Man-Thing vs. Swamp-Thing. The Battle of the Green. Hey there, comic book fans and lovers of all things mysterious. Ever found yourself wandering through stories that blur the lines between man and nature? Well, today, we're diving deep, literally and figuratively, into the murky worlds of two iconic swamp dwellers. When nature's guardians collide, who will emerge victorious? It's Man-Thing vs. Swamp-Thing, the ultimate battle of the green. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're pitting two of the most enigmatic and powerful creatures against each other. Marvel's Man-Thing and DC's Swamp-Thing. These two have sparked countless debates among fans, and it's high time we settled the score. In this epic face-off, we'll delve into their origins and backstories, break down their incredible powers and abilities, explore their thematic significance, and analyze who might come out on top in a hypothetical battle. Plus, we'll touch on their cultural impact over the years. So, grab a snack, sit back, and let's journey into the heart of the swamp. The origins. Man-Thing's genesis. Let's kick things off with their backstories because, as we all know, every great character has an origin that shapes who they become. First up is Man-Thing. He made his eerie debut in Savage Tales #1 back in May 1971, thanks to the creative minds of Stan Lee, Roy Thomas, Jerry Conway, and artist Gray Morrow. Man-Thing's tale is a classic mix of science and the supernatural. Ted Sallis was no ordinary biochemist. He was a genius trying to recreate the legendary super-soldier serum. You know, the one that turned Steve Rogers into Captain America. No pressure, right? But as with many great stories, there's betrayal. Saboteurs wanted the formula for themselves. In a desperate bid to keep it out of the wrong hands, Ted injected himself with the serum and made a break for it. Fate had other plans. His car veered off the road into the Florida Everglades, and the combination of the serum and the mystical energies of the swamp transformed him into the Man-Thing. Now devoid of human intellect, he became a creature of pure instinct, tied to the swamp and its mysteries, a silent guardian watching over the nexus of all realities. Swamp-Thing's beginnings. On the flip side, we have Swamp-Thing. He first emerged in House of Secrets #92 in July 1971. Crafted by the talented duo Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson. Alec Holland's story is equally tragic but with its own unique twists. Working deep in the Louisiana swamps with his wife Linda, Alec was on the verge of a scientific breakthrough, a bio-restorative formula that could turn deserts into lush forests. Talk about Nobel Prize material. But evil forces sought to exploit his work. Saboteurs planted a bomb in his lab, which blew up, killing Linda and leaving Alec engulfed in flames. Desperate, he doused himself with his bio-restorative formula and plunged into the swamp's murky waters. Instead of meeting his end, he was reborn as the Swamp-Thing. A being with the memories of Alec Holland but a body made entirely of plant matter. He became connected to the Earth's plant elemental force known as the Green, making him a powerful protector of nature. Powers and abilities. Man-Thing's capabilities. Now, let's break down what these guys can actually do. Man-Thing isn't just a pile of moss, he's got some serious game. First off, he has empathic sensing. That means he can feel emotions, especially fear. And trust me, you do not want to be afraid around him. Why? Because, whatever knows fear burns at the Man-Thing's touch. His touch is corrosive to those feeling fear. He's also got near invulnerability and rapid regeneration. You take a chunk out of him, he'll just grow it back. Plus, his body is malleable, allowing him to ooze through tight spots, much like the very swamp he inhabits. And let's not forget, he's the guardian of the nexus of all realities, a portal that connects all universes. Talk about being at the center of things. Sometimes, he gets pulled into cosmic-level events, whether he wants to or not. Swamp-Thing's abilities. Swamp-Thing, on the other hand, brings a whole new meaning to Green Thumb. He has mastery over plant life, controlling vegetation on a global scale. Imagine being able to make plants grow, move, and even fight for you, anywhere on Earth. He's connected to the green, which is the elemental force of all plant life. This connection grants him immortality and the ability to regenerate. If his body is destroyed, he can just make a new one from any available plant life. Plus, he's got superhuman strength and durability, he's not going down easy. Swamp-Thing's powers have grown over the years. He's not limited to just Earth, he's ventured into space and other dimensions. He's even taken on roles as a protector of the planet against mystical and otherworldly threats. Plus, he can communicate telepathically with other plant life, making him a true master of his domain. Thematic significance. Environmental commentary. Beyond the cool powers, both characters are heavy hitters when it comes to environmental themes. They're symbols of nature's raw power and a reminder of what happens when humanity messes with Mother Earth. Their stories often touch on ecological destruction and the importance of conservation. Identity and humanity. There's also the struggle with identity and what it means to be human. Both Man-Thing and Swamp-Thing grapple with their lost humanity. Imagine waking up one day as a monstrous entity. How do you cope? Their journeys delve into acceptance and self-discovery, posing philosophical questions about the essence of humanity. Horror and monstrosity. Let's not forget their roots in horror comics of the 1970s. These guys are born from tales that explore fear, isolation, and the unknown. Their stories often have a spooky vibe, tapping into our deepest anxieties and the concept of the other. Comparing the two titans. Similarities. So, why do people compare these two so much? Well, there are some striking similarities. Firstly, their origin stories are eerily alike. Both are scientists transformed by accidents involving their groundbreaking work. They both end up as guardians of nature in mystical realms, and both carry the weight of tragic figures who've sacrificed their normal lives. Differences. But hold up, they're not carbon copies. One major difference is consciousness and intelligence. Swamp Thing retains Alec Holland's intellect, making him a thinking, strategizing being. Man-Thing, however, is mostly mindless, driven by instinct and emotion. Then there's the scope of their powers. Swamp Thing has a global connection through the green. He can affect plant life anywhere and even venture into other realms. Man-Thing's influence is more localized, primarily tied to his swamp and the nexus of all realities. And let's consider their roles in their respective universes. Swamp Thing often gets involved in cosmic events and has interacted with the likes of Superman and Batman. Man-Thing tends to stick to his swampy turf, although guarding the nexus is no small feat. The hypothetical battle. Setting the scene. Alright, let's get to the juicy part, the face-off. Imagine a vast, mystical swamp that somehow bridges their two universes. Maybe a disturbance in the nexus of all realities brings them together. The sky turns a sickly green as the boundaries between worlds blur. The air is thick with mist, and the only sounds are the rustling of leaves and distant croaks. Both Man-Thing and Swamp Thing sense a disturbance, a ripple in the fabric of reality centered in the swamp. They converge on the same spot, each thinking they must protect their realm from an intruder. There's no dialogue, just an intense stare down. The battle begins. Battle analysis. Man-Thing approaches instinctively. He reacts to emotions, so if Swamp Thing shows any fear, Man-Thing's corrosive touch could come into play. But Swamp Thing is no ordinary foe. With his intellect, he can strategize on the fly, using the environment to his advantage. Swamp Thing tries to communicate, but Man-Thing only responds with a guttural roar. Swamp Thing could manipulate the surrounding plant life, maybe even tap into the vegetation within Man-Thing himself. He commands trees to uproot and vines to entangle, but Man-Thing wades through them, unfazed. Man-Thing, sensing Swamp Thing's frustration, reaches out with his corrosive touch. But Swamp Thing is crafty. He disperses his body, reappearing behind Man-Thing. Using his control over the green, he attempts to bind Man-Thing, but the latter's connection to the mystical energies makes him a tough opponent to restrain. Strengths and weaknesses. Man-Thing's strengths are his invulnerability and that fear-induced offense. But his lack of intellect is a downside. He doesn't strategize, he just reacts. Swamp Thing's strengths lie in his intelligence and vast elemental control. However, if he's somehow cut off from the green, he could be vulnerable. Possible outcomes. So who would win? It's tough to say. One possibility is a stalemate. Their regenerative abilities mean they could fight endlessly without a clear victor. But if Swamp Thing plays it smart, and he likely would, he could find a way to neutralize Man-Thing, perhaps by calming him or disrupting his connection to the swamp. Of course, external factors could tip the scales. Maybe other characters or cosmic entities get involved, turning the tide one way or the other. Cultural impact. Legacy in comics. Both characters have left a significant mark on the comic book world. Swamp Thing's stories under Alan Moore are legendary in the comic world. Moore redefined the character in the 1980s, introducing philosophical and ecological themes that were ahead of their time. Issues like environmental destruction, identity, and the human condition were explored profoundly. Man-Thing might not have had the same level of mainstream success, but he's been a staple in Marvel's horror and supernatural comics. His stories often serve as cautionary tales, highlighting humanity's darker side and the consequences of tampering with forces beyond our understanding. Adaptations and media presence. These swampy heroes didn't stay confined to the pages of comics. Swamp Thing got the Hollywood treatment with film adaptations in the 1980s, and more recently, a television series that garnered critical acclaim for its dark and atmospheric storytelling. Man-Thing had a film adaptation in 2005, though it flew under the radar for many. He's also appeared in animated series, and there's always chatter about potential future projects. Fingers crossed. Both characters have shown up in various video games, collectible card games, and have been referenced in other media, showcasing their lasting appeal. Fanbase and community. Both characters boast dedicated fanbases. There's a certain allure to these misunderstood monsters that resonates with people. Fans create incredible art, write fan fiction, and engage in spirited discussions celebrating the depth and nuance of Man-Thing and Swamp Thing. Conclusion. Recap of the Showdown. So there you have it. A deep dive into the world of Man-Thing and Swamp Thing. We've explored their origins, powers, thematic importance, and even speculated on who might win in a head-to-head battle. Personal reflections. For me, what makes these characters so compelling is how they embody the intersection between humanity and nature. They serve as reminders of our responsibilities to the world we live in and how easily things can go awry when we overstep our bounds. Plus, who doesn't love a good monster story with depth and heart? Engaging the audience. But hey, that's just my take. I'd love to hear what you think. Who do you believe would triumph in this battle of the green? Do you have a favorite among the two? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Call to action. If you enjoyed this swampy showdown, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Share this video with your friends who love comics, monsters, or epic battles. Stay tuned for upcoming videos where we'll explore more fascinating characters and stories.